Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. We are back again to talk about UFC 303 that went down just the weekend, just past then. Oscar, firstly, we had a good weekend of fights. Another pay-per-view in the bank for the UFC. Did you enjoy it?
I sure did. We had a lot of curveballs thrown at us throughout fight week in many forms. And even on the day of, we had a very, very late replacement, the latest of all time. Dan Ige stepping in on about 3 hours' notice to take on Diego Lopez. And there was so much going on this card, and we're here to cover it, even on a holiday, the 4th of July. So happy 4th of July to all the American listeners.
Yeah, happy 4th of July to the American audience. Absolute pleasure to get you all here. Let's talk about it. In the main event. Obviously, Alex Pereira retained his championship belt, knocking out Jiri Prochazka again in the second round. Let me bring it up right here. Some good stuff. Alex defeats Jiri again. Oscar, what do you make of it? Last week I was thinking I felt like it was going to go, a similar way. For what I've seen with Jiri versus Rakic, I didn't have too much confidence that Jiri can change the outcome. But what we're seeing from Alex, I believe, is something special. A kickboxing, we know how good he is at kickboxing. Coming over to the UFC and leaving the legacy that he has done already is, it's ridiculous. But I feel like we're seeing someone special in Alex Pereira, who's getting older, 37, 38, I believe, but still putting on these Showtime performances. Firstly, talk about that one on the weekend against Jiri Prochazka. It was special, wasn't it?
Yeah, he continues to show that he's one of the best strikers we've ever seen in the UFC. And he's making these fights look easy now. The Jamal Hill fight, he barely got touched, and he just touched him with a glazing left hook, and that just the graze enough was enough to finish him off. Jiri Prochazka this time around has basically no success. Right away, the calf kicks give him trouble, and he's that left hook in round one, and he's saved by the bell. Come round two, literally 5 minutes into that round, 5 minutes, he lands that head kick and finishes the job with ground and pound. He looks more dangerous with every fight, and I can't wait for his next fight. And I feel like it's not long from now because this guy loves to be active. And there's so many options being thrown out there, and rightfully so. I feel like he's earned a big opportunity up next. It could be at heavyweight, it could be another defense. But either way, he's cemented himself as one of the biggest stars in the UFC today, one of the most reliable guys and the most popular champions.
Yeah, I want to talk about his legacy, what he's done so far inside the UFC. Double champion, as you mentioned there, middleweight champion, light heavyweight champion. Could be the first ever triple champion if he does move up to heavyweight. Are we talking about one of the best legacies ever inside UFC history? Future Hall of Famer in Alex Pereira comes over in a short amount of time and has done what he has done inside the UFC.
I would say that there's very few guys you can even compare to Alex Pereira. He's in his own conversation, I would say. But absolutely, he's amongst the most decorated fighters in UFC history in this short little run that he's had. And he's already earned a Hall of Fame jacket, if you ask me.
Absolutely agree. And we'll move on to that co-main event that we talked about earlier. A late notice, the latest notice replacements from Dan Ige on the day this fight got made. Absolutely absurd. Never seen like this. We've never seen something like this inside MMA. A new fight night is always, you don't know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get stuff like this. Dan Ige, you got to rate the absolute balls on the guy to step in it, on the day against Diego Lopez, and went to a decision. He may have lost, but I feel like his stock definitely went up that night, 100%.
Danny Gay, to some fans, they didn't even know who he was, honestly. I was watching the fight with some people, and they didn't know who he was. But they sure know who he is after this, because absolutely nobody accepts a fight on 3 hours notice. Everybody wants to have the right amount of time to look at tape, to warm up, do this, do that. He didn't even have a weight cut for this. He weighed in at 165. Diego Lopez was actually underweight for this fight when they waited backstage in the VIP area. The governor of the state had to sign off on this. This is a very unprecedented situation. And I feel like the only reason it happened was because this was one of the biggest gates in UFC history. Those people paid a lot of money for those tickets. And for the co-main event to be cut out of this was a massive blow to the card. So the UFC did right by the fans. They went and they found a replacement. And Dana White wasn't just any replacement. This is a guy that's ranked. He had a fight coming up in a couple of weeks. So he already was training actively. He had like sparred the day before. So he was very sharp in there and sharp enough to win round 3 of this fight. Sure, round 1 and 2, there was an adjustment period. Diego Lopez was able to out-grapple him at many spots. But Dan Ige really showed up in that round 3. And I'm very curious how this would have looked as a 5-round fight, because who knows, Dan Ige could have won that.
Yeah, completely agree. Danny Ige coming strong in that third round. Some good stuff. As I talked about, his stock definitely went up that night, didn't he? I feel like Dana White would appreciate him stepping up on short notice. And then Texas, that Hunter Campbell released, he said, "Don't take this opportunity away from me." Someone that's hungry, and wants it. And I feel like the UFC would do him right and give him a big fight as well in his next one. I feel like he definitely deserves it after that.
For sure. And any fight in the sphere is a big fight. They have to do the right fights in there. And Ige is an all-action fighter. He's got many exciting knockouts on his resume. So he's earned the right to fight in the sphere. That's what he wants. And the UFC will for sure find the right opponent to fight him at featherweight.
Yeah, I completely agree. Next one, Roman Dolidze takes on Anthony Smith, and he got the job done. Heartbreaking stuff watching this because I loved Anthony Smith. We talked about it last week. So terrible to watch this, but Roman Dolidze did what he had to do. He got the job done. Oscar, thoughts on Roman Dolidze getting back to the win column after a rough 2 last fights, losing, but now back into the win column at 205 pounds against a veteran like Anthony Smith, who had probably 3-4 times the amount of fights that he had.
Yeah, Dolidze, he really showed up here. I thought his cardio would not be that good considering he took this on short notice. Anthony Smith, on the other hand, was training for more weeks. Sure, he had a rotating door of opponents, but still. Anthony Smith, his cardio really let him down here. Midway through round 2, he just slowed way down, allowed Roman Dolidze to do basically anything he wanted. Dolidze getting that ground and pound in round 2 was the biggest moment of the fight. But outside of that, very little action in this fight. It's going to be something we forget by next week's time.
Yeah, 100%. Next one, Macy Chashon getting a fantastic, well, I say fantastic, a doctor stoppage versus Mario Breno Silva. But she caused the damage. She caused the cut. The doctor stopped it. Thoughts on Macy Chashon, a huge win against Mario Breno Silva, who, come off the back of that title, title fight. But, didn't go her way that night, nor did it go her way this night. But, a big win, a big statement win, I believe, for Macy Chashon. She can really, build from this.
Yeah, these women really went for it. They were exchanging a lot in the pocket, just throwing with bad intentions. And I felt that Bueno Silva was able to win round 1, but come round 2, Chiasson gets a takedown and a single elbow opens up this humongous cut on Mario Bueno Silva. And in my opinion, it's fine that they stopped this fight. A lot of people got mad at it. I feel like it would have gotten into her eye. It would have prevented her from defending herself effectively. So it's a rightful stoppage, but I feel bad for Bueno Silva because I felt that she was winning the fight before that cut.
Yeah, definitely. Next one, and one of the biggest letdowns of the card, probably the biggest, on a fight on paper, what should have delivered. 2 strikers. Ian Gary had a different plan. He wanted to wrestle, which is smart. But if we're a fan, if we're talking fans and entertainment, we all wanted to see how it would face out if they were striking. And from what we've seen on the weekend and what we've seen in this fight, Michael Page was just a way quicker striker. He was beating Ian Gary to the punch every single time. And that's why I feel like Ian Gary was using his head, being wise and wanting to grapple, which in fairness, he got the job done. He got the victory. And that's the most important thing. But on paper, when we were looking at it, striker versus striker, it was touted as going to be one of the most exciting fights of the night. And I feel like maybe we didn't get let down a bit, but, didn't deliver as much as probably it should have.
Yeah, for reference as to why this fight wasn't that exciting, in total, these guys only landed 40 strikes. So not a lot of action going on in this one. And I really made a good case for why Ian Gary was going to win this fight the last week. I said that he had the grappling advantage. He's the younger guy, but man, Michael Page, you could argue he won this fight. In round one, Ian Machado Gary really had his way with him. He was able to get his back. He nearly strangled him, but Michael Venom Page has been working on that submission defense well enough for Ian Machado Gary to not be able to finish it. And in round two, I have to give that round to Michael Venom Page. He was doing the more damage in that fight, in that round. And in round three, we see MVP actually end up on top, but he decided to get up. And I feel like that may have been a mistake because that resulted in Machado Gary having the opportunity to take his back again, standing up, just having that control time. I feel like whoever does a little better at the end of the round in these close rounds, the judges will always give it to him. So Machado Gary was able to squeak out a decision here. And if I'm being honest, this is not a good look for him, considering how he was describing MVP in the lead up to this. He was calling him a Bellator fighter who's not that good fighting cans. Man, you barely beat him. So it's not a great look. And I feel like maybe he should stop himself from talking trash about his opponents, because if he's gonna win like this, he's gonna lose a lot of fans.
Yeah, not a great look for Machado Gary, as you mentioned there. But what was a great look was for Joe Pyfer. KO, overhand right, within the first round. Fantastic stuff. The exact reaction that I wanted to see from Joe Pyfer after his first defeat. Would I like to see him go full 15 and show his cardio a little bit more? Probably, but Joe Pyfer just likes to throw them bombs and knock people out. He absolutely starched Marc-Andre Barrios. So fantastic stuff. It's good to see Body Bags back in the win column. I feel like on the feet, he's a real problem. It's just when we see him in these 5-round fights and where he has to use his cardio, etc. I feel like this is where we're going to see some trouble.
Yeah, I thought we would see a little bit of a longer fight. Maybe we would see how Piper has evolved since his last fight. But Piper said many times that he was sick in his last fight, and I kind of believe him. In this fight, he really did not respect Marc-Andre Barrios. He decided to walk him down and throw these huge bombs. And Marc-Andre Barrios is usually durable, but he's been knocked out before, and not like this. This was brutal, man. He went face down after getting clipped behind the ear. Piper has serious power. So for Piper, I feel like maybe the hype is a little back up, but he for sure has a chip on his shoulder. He's very angry at the doubters right now, and I feel like that will fuel him to improve.
Yeah, 100%. Fantastic stuff from Joe Pyfer. Fantastic knockout, as I mentioned. What he needed after his first loss against Jack Manson. So great stuff. Good to see him back in the win column. Next one, we've got Andre Philly. He got a split decision over Killer Cub. Thoughts on that, Oscar? Split decision. I thought it was quite a close fight, in my opinion, as well. I thought Carl Swanson probably could have got his hand raised and probably should have got the victory that night, but I'm not a judge.
Yeah, this was a very tight fight as I was expecting. That's why I took Cub Swanson here. Also, sometimes you see these judges that have been fans for a long time. They like to score for the old guy. But Cub Swanson, he did not land more strikes in this fight, and that's what caused him here. Philly barely edged him out on significant strikes in round 2 and round 3. Even though Cub Swanson was able to land some good shots in there, it just wasn't enough. And also, Philly was able to get a couple of takedowns. So that really swayed the judges in his favor.
Yeah, absolutely. A good performance from both men. I thought it was a fantastic fight. Good to see two veterans go at it. Two long, UFC veterans, been in the game for a very long time, been in the UFC for a long time. So it's just good to see that happen. No one got knocked out really bad either. So, it was just a good feeling. But if we want to talk about knockouts, we want to talk about Gene Silva. He put Charles Jourdain, they got that finish. Put Charles Jourdain out. Not necessarily out, but he finished him. This was a statement performance. Oscar Silva, let's talk about Gene Silva. Fantastic win for him against Charles Jourdain, who has caused some trouble against some really good guys in the past, but has lost to the best, when he gets to the top, etc. So this is a good win for Gene Silva. So momentum can come off the back of this, but how good he look against Charles Jourdain?
He looked incredible out here. I really wasn't sure how good he was, considering the competition he had to face. He had to face Weston Wilson in his debut, who I really rate very lowly. And Charles Jourdain is a very fun fighter. He's always been near the top 15. He gets really good win streaks going here and there. In this fight, he was just defensively responsible. He was in the pocket way too much, and John Silva made him pay with that brutal uppercut. Charles Jourdain has never been finished by a TKO or a knockout in the UFC, and to see this, that shows me the kind of power that John Silva is carrying. This was a massive victory for him, even though he missed weight, so no bonus. But in a way, he did get a bonus because he didn't take any damage here, and now he has a fight booked next week. UFC Denver against Drew Dober, up a weight class. That's a big fight for him. If he wins that fight, he's going to be like in a very good position at lightweight.
Yeah, against Drew Dober, who's fantastic. Been inside the UFC for a long time. Top 15, always top 15, top bound. So that'd be a statement victory, wouldn't it? Especially stepping into short notice. Who knows? Who knows? Great to talk about that one next week. As you mentioned, he's fighting next week. So yeah, we'll talk about that good stuff next week. We're talking about good stuff, and we're talking about statement victories. We're talking about highlights of the night. We're talking about Peyton Talbot against Yanis Gamori. Peyton. 19 seconds is all it took. Was it what was it? Was it a right hand? And then some ground strikes. It's over. Peyton, I feel like, is a serious prospect. He's got some really good hands. He's very very precise on where he puts them. Yanis Gamori was just the guy in his way. Good stuff. But how big is his ceiling? That's what we want to know now. How big is his ceiling? Who can cause him trouble? But firstly, are you impressed with Peyton on the weekend against Yanis? Fantastic performance. What he needed.
It's impossible not to be impressed with Peyton Talbot. This was the second quickest knockout in the history of the bantamweight division, and he looked like a real minus 1600 favorite should look. One punch basically did the job. It should have been a walk-off KO, but the ref wanted to see some ground and pounded there. Yanis Gamori has never been finished this quick. His last fight, he lost by third round TKO. So to not even go 20 seconds into a fight is remarkable for me. Peyton Talbot showed off how much power he has, and this was a situation where he didn't even try to get a knockout. He just landed the perfect punch at the perfect time. So Peyton Talbot, if he continues on this trajectory, there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be the next Sugar Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, he's got some impeccable timing. When he places his shots, his counters, everything about it is absolutely beautiful. Good to see Peyton get another win, another prospect at 135 pounds to look out for. A women fight to talk about. Gillian Robertson getting the job done against Michelle Waterson Gomez. I don't know how to explain this one. Pure domination from Gillian Robertson. We know what she wanted. She wanted to get that wrestling going and that grappling going. She did. Never got the finish, which was quite surprising because obviously we know how good of a finisher Gillian Robertson is. I thought there would be an opportunity to potentially get that armbar or rear naked choke, but Waterson Gomez just wasn't stopping fighting. She kept on going. She kept on going. She was an absolute dog. Ultimately, this was her last fight. She has retired now. After the fight, she retired, lay down her gloves. That's it, end of the career. But Gillian Robertson had to do what she needed to do. She got the job done, pure domination. I thought at a few times, I thought the fight was going to get stopped. I got to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not too proud to get this prediction right. I said Waterson Gomez was going to retire. I just felt that Gillian Robertson would put the kind of beating on her that would really make her rethink why she's doing this, and that's what happened. Gillian Robertson is much more refined than she used to be. Back in the day, she would always do submission over position. This time around, she kind of prioritized the position more in some spots. I feel like in round two, when she was almost getting that armbar, if she had a little more time to work with, she would have tapped out Waterson Gomez. Gomez decided not to give up on herself, so she went the distance. She had a really up and down UFC career, but I have to give her a pass because this was up a weight class. She actually was an atomweight that fought at 105 pounds. So to even be that competitive is remarkable.
Yeah, some good stuff from Michelle. And, a little bit of a pioneer in the women's game. So yeah, good stuff from her. Good stuff from Julian Robertson. Next one, we've got a heavyweight fight. It was Martin Buday versus Andre Arlovsky. Andre Arlovsky, always a staple inside the UFC, always fighting these guys and the prospects. The up and comers, the risers coming through the ranks. But no more, no more. This was his last fight on his UFC contract. So that's him and the UFC now done. Interested to see where Andre Arlovsky goes from here, but we are talking about Martin Buday. A split decision victory, a close one, a bit of a rough one, bit of a tough one to watch. A sloppy heavyweight fight. You gotta love him.
Yeah, I could not have predicted this any better. I knew this would be a miserable watch. Martin Buday loves to hang out in the clinch, but oftentimes he doesn't really do any damage in there. And Arlovsky was happy to be in that clinch, and that's what made him lose this fight. Uh, yeah, this was horrible across the board. I was just waiting for the time to run out here. But that doesn't speak to how much I respect Andre Arlovsky. Andre Arlovsky, 2 stints in the UFC, the most fights, most wins in heavyweight history. You have to respect it. And he also said he's going to fight for 3 more years. So he's got no quit in him. He wants to fight until he's 48. So what a guy. Martin Buday, on the other hand, I really think he has to improve his striking, because I feel like any dangerous, like truly dangerous knockout artist could have finished Arlovsky on this night.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't think there's going to be too many offers for Andre Arlovsky on the table heading outside the UFC. Who's going to take a risk on a 45-year-old? I'm not too sure. Do you think there will be many offers on the table?
Yeah, he actually said he already has an offer. That's why he was so willing to go. So I think Gamebred FC makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
He's got the same manager as Jorge Masvidal, first round management. So they're for sure going to hook him up with a spot on the roster.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like that. Definitely interesting to see where he goes from next. Goes from here. Next one was the second fight of the evening. We've got Ray Tsuruya versus Carlos Hernandez, and Ray. He walked out with Shinzeki Nakamura. Shinzeki helped him get the job done, coached him way to victory. Ray, let's talk about Ray though. Good grappling, good wrestling. He showcased it that night. Are you impressed by the Japanese, debut?
I really was, man. He was doing some things that in the grappling realm that we don't see often in the UFC. Many guys, they just like to go down to the basics. They don't really mix it up, do unpredictable things. He was very well in a scramble in this fight. He found himself in the bottom position here and there, and he still worked his way to a superior position. So I think he's somebody to watch. He's only, I think, 21, 22. So this is a very early version of Tsuruya that we're getting. It's very exciting to see now 2 prospects from Japan in the UFC's flyweight division. So I welcome more, and we're actually going to get another one. It's going to be Kai Asakura from Ryzen. The bantamweight champion is coming over to the UFC. And I'm hearing rumors that he could have a big fight lined up. I won't say what it is. I don't want to give away my sources, but he's got a big fight lined up.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. But soon come. I would love to see maybe the Japanese prospects. Do you reckon they're on a collision course? Maybe Tatsu Taitara, and Ray. Maybe potentially down the line. I would love for the UFC to go back to Asia, especially Tokyo or something like Japan. I think it'd make a lot of sense with the amount of Japanese talent they have now at 125 pounds.
I like what you're thinking. I'm thinking we're going to see Tsuruya. We could see a Tsuruya Tatsuro Taira like title fight, just like we saw Yan Xiaonan and Zhang Weili, where 2 countrymen go at it. I would love to see it.
Or maybe Tatsu Taira versus Kai Azakura. That could potentially be the first one we see. That could be potentially the first one we see.
Yeah, I really like it.
That would be good. I'm hoping the UFC do branch out and they go to Japan or something like that. It makes a ton of sense. But who are we? First fight of the evening, Vinicius Oliveira fought Ricky Simon. Ricky, I thought had all the meanings, all the talent to get this one done, but as soon as the fight played out, the first 5 minutes, I was just like, what's Ricky doing? He looked. He just looked very timid to get anything going. Or did Vinicius just have a good game plan? I wasn't too sure. Off the back of a fantastic, KO of the year contender, this was a big spot for Vinicius, and I feel like he delivered. Or did Ricky Simon just not come to fight? What are your thoughts on this?
I feel like Ricky Simone had an off night here. He didn't show up in this fight at all. And it's also possible that he may be past his best years, which is strange because he's early 30s right now, but it's really weird. This was not the Ricky Simone that we saw take on Rob Font back in the day, Rafael Sensao, Song Yudong. In those fights, he really looked like he could compete with basically anybody. But Vinicius Oliveira made him look like he was some guy coming out the contender series with some basic wrestling because his striking was nowhere to be found. Vinicius Oliveira had the confidence of a prime Anderson Silva out there, just taunting him, doing basically anything he wanted out there. He made Simone look like a joke. And Simone, if you've seen his UFC career, he's no joke. But I have to give credit to Oliveira. He defended the takedowns from Simone. So Simone couldn't get anything going. Even when Simone got a takedown, Oliveira was back up. And Oliveira also had a leg injury at the end of round 2, and he still won round 3. So that kind of shows you just how not in the fight Simone was.
Yeah, interesting stuff. It was disappointing to see Simone, lose that fight. Yeah, just looked like the energy or his confidence was just, sapped out of him, walked out of him straight away. So, not as you mentioned there, not a Simone that we've seen in the past against Rob Font. Tapping out Marab Divishvili back in the day. So, yeah, interesting stuff. Not a great look, but yeah, interesting to see where he goes from here. But yeah, that was 303. So we had some good highlights. We had some bad ones, but most importantly, we had Dan Ige stepping in short notice. That's probably my favorite. I remember the start of the pay per view. It was Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez, and then that was at like 1 a.m. in the morning, and at 4 a.m. it was Diego Lopez versus Dan Ige. It was so funny how quick they changed the fight. But yeah, interesting stuff. What was your overall thoughts about UFC 303?
Yeah, this is an event that I don't think we'll forget with that main event and the co-main event. Alex Pereira with a highlight reel for the ages against Yuri Prohaska. I believe that next for him has to be Magomed Ankalaev. I know everybody's talking about these heavyweight fights, but if we're being honest, Aspinall has a fight booked and John has a fight booked. So we can't even talk about anything until those guys get done with their business. And Magomed Ankalaev has the biggest win streak in the division. I feel he's earned his title shot. He already had the title shot. He had a draw, and he's not being given the chance to compete for the title again. So if Alex Pereira can beat a wrestler as good as Magomed Ankalaev, then I say give him absolutely anything he wants. But for now, I feel like we have to see him overcome that wrestling test.
Yeah, agree. But if it does go up to heavyweight, I'd love to see it happen. Who wouldn't? One of the biggest fights
Yeah, if he
in the
wins,
history.
if he
Yeah,
were to beat John Jones, I would not hesitate to call him the greatest of all time.
yeah. I mean, there's not much I can say to argue against that. 100%. So, we do have a few fighting this weekend. A few. We have Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz. If you are tuning in to watch that, which I believe you can watch on UFC Fight Pass. I don't know.
You can, yeah, you can watch it for $50 if you want. So it's not a bad fight at all if you want to check it out. Obviously, these guys have very little experience actually boxing, but if you saw their UFC fight, a lot of it took place on the feet with boxing. So I'm excited for this. Big fan of both guys. When they had the original BMF title fight, I was very excited. And also, you have other former UFC guys on this, so it's worth checking
Yeah,
out.
we got Anthony Pettis versus Chris Avalos in the co-main event. Good to see Anthony Pettis back. Legend. Chris Avalos, he's a friend of Nate Diaz. But who else we got? We've got Daniel Jacobs, former champion. But other than that, that's pretty much it that I'm looking forward to, the co and the main event. So yeah, I'll be tuning in to watch the co-main event and the main event. But that's probably about it. They're both 39. Both getting on age. They're probably getting a decent enough payday. But yeah, some good stuff live on pay-per-view, Fanimo or UFC Fight Pass. So pick your choice. So what else do we have this weekend? I believe that is probably it. We've got the LFA. We've got Shakar Stevenson as well, and we've got some one fight night. So Not too much to pick from. But
Yeah,
yeah. What was you going to say, Oscar?
yeah. 4th of July weekend is the reason that all these fight promotions are basically taking a break because everybody's just taking this week off just to enjoy time with their family.
Yeah, defo. So let's end that there. Let's pretty much wrap it up. Oscar, thank you very much for joining me. I'll catch you next week as we get to talk about another good fight. It's completely slipped my head though, so I'm gonna have to think about
I
it
know what
again.
it is. Yeah,
Go.
UFC is going to the Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. Main event is former strawweight champion Rose Namajunas taking on Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez took this on short notice. It's a 5-round
Yeah,
fight, and it's a very solid card. Drew Dober,
yeah,
as we just mentioned, got a new opponent, Jean Silva. So that's going to be a fun one to preview.
yeah, absolutely. Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. Good to be in front of fans again. Rose Namajunas deserves it. But yeah, Tracy Cortez in the main event. Santiago Ponzinibbio, Muslim Salikov as well to co-main event. Some decent fights. Let's look forward to that to preview. Make sure you catch us here back again next week, Thursday, 5:30 p.m. UK time. And Oscar, thank you very much for joining me, and I'll catch you next week.
All right, see you as well. Enjoy